Once I was given a simul in India, and within the same simul I won 5 games in different openings using the same tactical motif called the Greek gift sacrifice, because it's one of the most common attacking patterns in chess. So today I'd love to share with you how to use it right, secondly how to use it even against experienced opponents, because I used it against FIDE Masters successfully, who were trying actively to prevent this from happening, but it happened anyways. And lastly, which will probably be the juiciest part of this video, some of my secret opening lines and opening traps that push your opponent right into the deadly zone of the Greek gift sacrifice. One of the openings when the Greek gift often occurs is the French defense. Why? Because we've got our pawn on e5 that pushes this knight away from f6, and we really don't want to have the knight over there because this knight controls a bunch of squares on the king side, making it much harder for us to develop any king side attack. But anyway, I'll show you later, as I promised, how to use it in different openings. Anyway, for now, let's say both sides just develop casually, and here it's very common for black to castle at some point, walking right into our tactics. Bishop takes h7 sacrifice. Now, there are a few prerequisites for the sacrifice to be successful. One is, notice that there is no knight on f6. That's the thing that we talked about before. And so when you take on h7, your opponent is forced to expose their king. So that's one nice thing. Secondly, you gotta be able to play knight g5 next. And here an important thing is that our knight is supported by the bishop, meaning that your opponent cannot just take it with their queen. But luckily it is often the case because by default you've got your bishop on c1 and you usually develop your knight to f3, therefore this condition is met in the vast majority of the situations, so it's usually not an issue. Now we deliver this check to the king, and there are obviously a number of ways where the king can go. Now, king g6 often is the most resilient option. We'll talk about this in a second, but let's first clear other things out of the way. Now, king h8 is probably the worst move for black to play, because you were going to play queen h5, but now we can play this move while checking the king and gaining a tempo, so that leads to just this immediate checkmate. Many of your opponents will just move their king back to g8, and after that you still play queen h5 with the same purpose of playing queen to h7 checkmate, and it usually wins. However, there is one useful thing to know. The only way for black to try to put up resistance is to play rook to e8, trying to provide this escape path for the king. And here, you don't play queen h7 right away. You first play an in-between move queen takes f7. This pawn is no longer defended by the rook because it left, so now you can grab and take away one of the pawns that shielded your opponent's king. The king has only one square to go to, then you slide back to h5, check again, the king has to go back. Notice that we reached the same position basically as a move ago, but now without this pawn on f7. So now we continue with our checks, we do check, our knight takes away this square, so the king has to go here, and queen to g7 is a forced checkmate, and that's the main pattern of the Greek gift sacrifice. How about your opponent moving his king forward, either to h6 or g6? Moving the king to h6 is always a bad idea because we've got our sniper bishop standing right here on c1, and therefore you have all kinds of discovered checks. For example, knight takes f7, which is a discovered check, a double check, plus you're gonna grab the queen on the next move, and that is just clearly bad for black. The only move that puzzles players sometimes is the move king to g6, and although the king is exposed, white still needs to be careful because black is ready to play something like f5, shelter the king, and then it might be not that simple to checkmate black. Now, how do you attack this exposed king? There are 3 common ways, and they often work. Like in this position, I suppose that all of them work actually. One is to play queen d3, very straightforward check to the king, so that's one option. The other one is queen g4, just putting our queen opposite to the king, which would, again, make it possible to attack on the next move. And finally, we can push the pawn forward, h4, aiming for h5, and delivering the check that way. So we've got these 3 options, and in this particular case, I think that all of them are winning the game, actually. But h4, is one of the interesting options. Why do I say so? Because if you play queen g4, it is a strong threat, and it's a good move to play because you threaten something like knight takes e6 check. However, again, if your opponent is resourceful, they're going to play f5 at this point, and this may puzzle you because what are you going to do here? Your queen is attacked, so you have to do something about that. If you take en passant, that's probably pretty bad because that allows black to bring their knight back into play, and now that your queen is still attacked. So let's put it back. The only good move for white would be to bring the queen back to g3, still saying, you know what, I'm still going to play knight takes e6 on the next move, checking the king and attacking everything in your position. Still, the position remains to be a little bit tricky because your opponent can try something like f4. I mean, in this position, it's not that dangerous because you can capture it, or he may try queen e7 and saying, okay, At least when you take here, like, you're not going to grab my queen over there. So although, generally speaking, this position is still very good for white and you're still winning here, but it's slightly trickier. So h4 is often the easiest option. Now, the good thing about playing h4 is that there's pretty much nothing your opponent can do here because h5 is a pretty big threat. And even if they play some f6 or f5 move, doesn't really matter what they play. Still play h5. Your knight takes away these squares, so the king is forced right here. And now you have all kinds of discovered checks once again. Knight takes e6 and you win the game. Alright, now let's talk about more advanced level opponents who are familiar with the Greek gift sacrifice, and even if they blunder it, they realize that, oh, I cannot take it because there comes this knight g5 and the attack rolls out all the way up to the checkmate. And then they're gonna play king to h8. And here is a very interesting moment, because a lot of players in this position just drop their bishop back to d3 because they're not sure what to do, and otherwise this bishop seems to be in danger. Maybe black can play g6 and capture the bishop. So there is a much more energetic way to win the game right away. Instead of moving the bishop back, you still play the very same move, like regardless of what your opponent does, you still play knight g5. And your idea is very simple, play queen h5 and then set it up for the checkmate on the next move. Now, the only way to stop that for black would be to play g6, because if not, like after any other move of black, you'll throw the queen out with some checkmating threats. So g6 is the only move. Now you can no longer play queen h5, the square is controlled, so what do? Well, you just play queen g4, preparing to put your queen on the h-file on the next move. And that usually wins the game on the spot, because even if your opponent tries to move the king off the h-file, because if you put the queen right there, that's going to obviously create a bunch of checkmating threats. Even if your opponent tries to move the king away, the problem that black has here is that they've got this lonely king, and you have your queen, knight, and two bishops directly involved into this attack. And you just overpower black. So here, you just need to sacrifice one of your minor pieces to expose the king. So what can you do? You can sack the bishop right here, or you can sack the knight on one of these squares. And it feels to me like each of these sacrifices would win the game right away. For example, knight takes f7. So I'm attacking the queen, forcing black to capture it, and I want to play queen takes g6 on the next move. Something like rook takes, queen takes g6, check. Plus I'm hitting the rook. So if the king goes here, we can keep checking, and then bishop g5, and that wins the game. Now, here's my favorite part. Here's how you can use the Greek gift sacrifice, even when your opponent knows about this tactical pattern and tries to stop it and believes that he stopped it. So here's how you use it anyways. Now, notice that in this case, black developed their bishop to e7 and it controls the square g5. And at first, it seems like the Greek gift is no longer an option, because if you try it out, if you play bishop takes, king takes, knight g5, that's just give up chess, because he can simply take the knight. He doesn't have to move the king. So bishop takes g5, and white just lost two pieces for no reason. Having said that, there is still a way for white to win, and it is the move pawn to h4. Here's the point. Your opponent tried to take away the square from your knight, so you just reinforce the square and say, you know what? I'm gonna jump there anyway. You can't stop me from doing that. And it's a very juicy position. As I said, I won a number of games, like with the exact same position or something very similar. So basically, whenever you reach this position, your chances of winning the game within the next 5 moves are terribly, terribly high. Because if black just ignores it and plays whatever, you really execute the Greek gift sacrifice. So here, nothing changes. You throw the knight out, you want to play queen h5, queen h7. And the problem for black is that although they can take it, but now we recapture with a pawn, and that involves our rook into the attack. So that makes things for black really bad. Now we still play queen h5, threatening queen h8 checkmate, because we have two minor pieces, two heavy pieces stacking along the h-file. If black ever tries to provide some escape path, we lock the door, and we play queen h8 on the next move, checkmate, black can't stop it. There is a lot of fun when your opponent plays pawn to f6 at this point, thinking that that stops any kind of Greek gift sacrifices, because it feels like black controls the square, and if you take right here, the knight will come back into play, and now your attack is over. So what do you do instead of this? Now, as soon as your opponent plays pawn to f6, you can imagine yourself being Mikhail Tal for a minute, and you start just sacrificing your pieces all the way to the checkmate. It's really beautiful. You play knight g5 anyway, regardless of how hard your opponent tried to stop this. You see he's got a lot of these pieces on this diagonal, trying as best as he could to stop you from going knight g5. You go there anyway, threatening this pawn on h7, therefore black is forced to take it. Now you sack the bishop, as we usually do in the Greek gift, calling the king out. Now the king probably has to take, and then you play pawn takes g5 with a similar attack against the king. Moreover, after the queen comes back, you've got a really fancy way to finish the game off, You could play queen h5 right away, and then trying to play g6 and queen h8, but that takes a little bit of time and your opponent could try to do something to stop this. So a better way is to sacrifice the rook, because we're playing like Mikhail Tal, right? So we want to sacrifice everything. So king takes, now you bring the queen out with check, that's the difference, that's what we sacrifice the rook for, just to win a tempo, and after the king goes, now you go g6, you lock the door, and queen h7 is coming, but can't stop it. If they play whatever move, you still play this, and queen h8. Really, really funny and spectacular checkmate. What else can your opponent try to stop you? g6 looks rather suicidal, weakens a bunch of squares, walks right into your h5 theme, opening the h-file, and that's clearly bad for black. Let's take it back. How about pawn to h6? That's the move that a lot of players rely on, thinking that, yo, there is no pawn on h7 anymore, you can't sack your bishop right there. And guess what you do? Okay, you just sack your bishop right here. That's a really funny thing. You open up the king, and after that you have a very easy way. You can bring your queen over here, attacking this pawn, and you can lift the rook this way, rook h3, g3, attacking the king. And usually you can win the game. I mean, I didn't check it with Stockfish, maybe it can somehow find some resources for black, but whenever I got these kind of positions in my practical games, I won 100% of them, just because your attack is so easy to play, and I don't see any easy way for black to stop it. Like, basically your idea is after black plays something, you play rook g3 check, our bishop takes away this square, right? He can go there, so king h8 is forced. Then you play queen d2, and queen takes h6 checkmate. Like, it's very simple. Alright, and now it's time for some of my secret opening weapons. Now, how can you use the Greek gift if your opponent plays the most common moves ever? It looks like there's no way for black to force the Greek gift sacrifice, but there is still a tricky line. You start off by going pawn d5. Your opponent will usually take it, and then you continue with bishop to d6, just covering this pawn on e5. And yes, you sacrifice the pawn, so there's a little bit of a risk involved because you're down a pawn, but it's not the end of the world. Even if you don't end up trapping your opponent, you can still play on as just one doubled pawn. Now, your opponent will usually play knight c3, go knight f6, the most played move is bishop c4. They naturally want to develop and overprotect this pawn so you can't get it back, you castle, they castle as well, and guess what? We reached the position where you can't play e4. That's what we sacrificed our pawn on d5 for. We wanted to clear the way for our pawn to go forward and to chase away this knight from f3. They usually go knight d4. Once again, we're following along the most played line by white. And now bishop takes h2 is the Greek gift sacrifice, and you win the game. Like, it's all classical Greek gift. Knight g4, queen h4, and you win the game because he can't defend these squares. How about the Sicilian defense? There is a funny way to push your opponent into the Greek gift sacrifice right here anyway. What you do is you play the wing gambit, you sacrifice the pawn, then you offer the other pawn, and then you play pawn d4. Now, what is your opponent going to do here? They won't feel comfortable bringing their knights out, because if they develop one of the knights, you'll always push the pawn forward and push it back. Therefore, they try to play pawn e6. It feels like a good move because it provides some space in the center of the board, plus it activates the bishop so that to some extent they cover this pawn on a3. And what you do then is you play c3, and after they go d5, you lock the center with the move pawn to e5. And as you may notice, we reached the position very similar to the French defense. This is exactly the French defense pawn structure, and in the French defense, the Greek gift is very possible. So if black goes something, we play bishop d3, and then knight f3, and as soon as black castles down the road, there will always be this bishop takes h7 sacrifice idea. Moreover, you can reach, strangely enough, the very same position from the French defense itself. Say your opponent goes for the move pawn e6. We just reorder the moves. We start off with knight f3, they go d5, you lock the center. Now they play c5, trying to play their French defense stuff, but you start with this win gambit idea, pawn a3 then, and then you play d4, knight c6, c3, and we reach the very same position. So that's quite funny that you can use the same line against both the Sicilian defense and the French defense, which are some of the most popular openings of black. Now, let's say your opponent will again try to do something to stop you from this. Let's say they're going to play knight e7, and after you develop the knight, they'll try to bring their knight either to g6 or to f5 and try to block this diagonal. What are you going to do then? Well, in this case, I suggest that you wait a little bit, because you want them to castle, so you can pick up this pawn, and from here the knight possibly in some lines can jump forward and attack. They go bishop e7, and here's our secret sauce. If you remember, I talked about the move pawn h4, the one that you use when your opponent is trying to stop you from executing the Greek gift sacrifice. It's a very strong idea. So you play h4, and if the knight were on g6, h4, h5 would be a really bad threat for black, kicking away this knight, but even with the knight on f5, it's all the same. You play h4, and then if they castle, you can even push the other pawn forward g4, forcing this knight away, and then all these knight g5 ideas would come into play. it might feel like he can take this pawn right here, but there is another interesting tactical pattern here. You allow black to win the pawn right here, but then you lock the door with the move pawn g5. Now you threaten to capture the bishop simply. It's no longer defended by the queen. What can they do? They have to either give up the bishop, but if they take it back, they clear the path for your rook, plus you've got the bishop right here, and your queen ready to join the party. So this is a deadly combo. You take it, the king has to move, then you throw the queen out, and it's going to be checkmate on one of the next moves. I mean, they can try to cover, but it doesn't matter. You clear it off, and then you play bishop g6 and queen h7 or queen h8 checkmate on the next move. So something like this is going to happen. And here is one more secret opening weapon, especially for the Igor Nation. In this position, e4, e5, again, the most standard stuff ever. There is a weird looking gambit where you kind of play the central game, but then all of a sudden you turn into the king's gambit, or I don't know how to call it. Anyway, so here's the purpose. You want to just get some space on the king side. Now, your opponents here will usually notice that you attack this pawn, they'll try to defend it. Then you bring the other knight attacking this pawn once again. Therefore, they defend it. After that, you play bishop to d3. And in many of the lines of this gambit, let's say both sides just develop casually, all of a sudden you push the pawn forward to e5, because thanks to our pawn sacrifice on d4, we clear the path for our pawn, moving this knight away, and then bishop takes h7 wins the game. It's crazy because it looked like black played all the very correct and natural moves, but 8 moves in the game, and it's time to resign. So they take, you go knight g5, queen h5, all the same stuff, queen h7. Moreover, in this case, they can't even play king g6, which was a more resilient option in some of the other lines. But here we've got this pawn f4, we just push it forward, and that's completely bad for black. Notice that we've got our bishop right here, so the king has to go, and then you can either use all kinds of discovered checks, or just play queen g4, queen h4, checkmate on the next move. Some time ago, I recorded a video about this opening, because it's really something fascinating. A random guy invented this crazy gambit and won almost all the games where he used this gambit, despite the fact that they were correspondence games. Like, I'll leave a link to that video down below if you want to check it out. It's a really interesting gambit to play. Also, if you want to learn and practice the main rule that allows you to become a strong attacking player, check out this free masterclass over there.